6 presumed dead after cargo ship crash levels Baltimore bridge. A major Baltimore bridge collapsed like a house of cards early Tuesday after it was struck by a container ship, sending 6 people to their deaths in the dark waters below and closing one of the country's busiest ports. By Tuesday evening, search and rescue efforts for 6 people who were working on the bridge when it collapsed had transitioned into a recovery mission, Coast Guard Rear Admiral Shannon N. Gilreath said. "We do not believe that we're going to find any of these individuals still alive," he said, noting the water temperature and the amount of time that had passed since the ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge and caused it to collapse around 1:30 a.m. Jeffrey Pritzker, executive vice president of Brawner Builders, earlier said that 1 person had survived. Their names were not released. Earlier Tuesday, as an extensive search was ongoing, Maryland Governor Wes Moore held out hope that the missing people might be found and expressed heartbreak after officials suspended the active search for survivors. "Our heart goes out to the families," he said after the active search was suspended. "I can't imagine how painful today has been for these families, how painful these hours have been for these families." It was a crushing blow to the loved ones of the missing men, who had waited for hours at a Royal Farms convenience store near the entrance of the bridge for word of their fate. The tragic chain of events began early Tuesday when the cargo ship Dolly notified authorities that it had lost power and issued a mayday moments before the 984-foot vessel slammed into a bridge support at a speed of 8 knots, which is about 9 miles per hour. Moore declared a state of emergency while rescue crews using sonar detected at least 5 vehicles in the frigid 50-foot deep water. 3 passenger cars, a cement truck, and another vehicle of some kind. Authorities do not believe anyone was inside the vehicles. Investigators quickly concluded that it was an accident and not an act of terrorism. Earlier, 2 people were rescued from the water, Baltimore Fire Chief James Wallace said. "One was in good condition and refused treatment," he said. "The other was seriously injured and was being treated in a trauma center." Moore said other drivers might have been in the water had it not been for the folks who, upon hearing the mayday, blocked off the bridge and kept other vehicles from crossing. "These people are heroes," Moore said. "They save lives." Nearly 8 years ago, the Dolly was involved in an accident. In July 2016, it struck a quay at the port of Antwerp-Bruges in Belgium, damaging the quay. The Nautical Commission investigated the accident, but the details of the inquiry were not immediately clear Tuesday. The Dolly is operated and managed by Synergy Group. In a statement, the company said that 2 port pilots were at the helm at the time of Tuesday's crash, and that all 22 crew members on board were accounted for. The Dolly was chartered by the Danish shipping giant Maersk, which said it will have no choice but to send its ships to other nearby ports with the port of Baltimore closed. The bridge, which is about 1.5 miles long and carries Interstate 695 over the Patapsco River southeast of Baltimore, was fully up to code, Moore said. National Transportation Safety Board Chairwoman Jennifer Homendy said that her agency will lead the investigation and that a data recorder on the ship could provide more information. "But right now we're focusing on the people, on the families," she said. "The rest can wait." President Joe Biden vowed to rebuild the bridge and send federal funds. "This is going to take some time," the president warned. "The people of Baltimore can count on us, though, to stick with them at every step of the way, till the port is reopened and the bridge is rebuilt." Speaking in Baltimore, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg echoed the president's promise. "This is no ordinary bridge," he said. "This is one of the cathedrals of American infrastructure." But Buttigieg warned that replacing the bridge and reopening the port will take time and money and that it could affect supply chains. The Port of Baltimore, the 11th largest in the U.S., is the busiest port for car imports and exports, handling more than 750,000 vehicles in 2023 alone, according to data from the Maryland Port Administration. Writer David Simon, a champion of Baltimore who set his TV crime drama, The Wire, on the streets of the city he once covered as a reporter, warned online that the people who will suffer the most are those whose livelihoods depend on the port. Thinking first of the people on the bridge, Simon posted on X. But the mind wanders to a port city strangling all the people who rely on ships in and out. Dramatic video captured the moment at 1:28 a.m. Tuesday when the dolly struck a support and sent the bridge tumbling into the water. A live stream showed cars and trucks on the bridge just before the strike. The ship did not sink, and its lights remained on. Investigators said in a timeline that the dolly's lights suddenly shut off 4 minutes earlier before they came back on, and that then, at 1:25 a.m., dark black smoke began billowing from the ship's chimney. A minute later, at 1:26 a.m., the ship appeared to turn, and in the minutes before it slammed into the support, the lights flickered again. Maryland Transportation Secretary Paul Wiedfeld said the workers on the bridge were repairing concrete ducts when the ship crashed into the structure. At least 7 workers were pouring concrete to fix potholes on the roadway on the bridge directly above where the ship hit, said James Crutzfelt, a foreman. Earlier, the Coast Guard said it had received a report that a motor vessel made impact with the bridge and confirmed it was the Dolly, a container ship sailing under a Singaporean flag that was heading for Sri Lanka. Bobby Haynes, who lives in Dundalk in Baltimore County, said he felt the impact of the bridge collapse from his house nearby. "I woke up at 1:30 this morning and my house shook, and I was freaking out," he said. "I thought it was an earthquake, and to find out it was a bridge is really, really scary." Earlier in the day, relatives of the construction crew waited for updates on their loved ones. Marian del Carmen Castellan told Telemundo her husband, Miguel Luna, 49, was working on the bridge. "They only tell us that we have to wait and that they can't give us information," she said. Castellan said she was devastated because our heart is broken, because we don't know how they have been rescued yet. We are just waiting for the news. Luna's co-worker Jesus Campos said he felt crushed, too. "It hurts my heart to see what is happening. We are human beings, and they are my folks," he said. Campos told the Baltimore Banner that the missing men are from El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico. The Coast Guard said it was suspending the active search and rescue effort at 7:30 p.m. Tuesday. "Coast Guard's not going away. None of our partners are going away, but we're just going to transition into a different phase," Gilreath said at a news conference. Maryland State Police Superintendent Roland L. Butler, Jr., said it was moving to a recovery operation. "Changing conditions have made it dangerous for divers," he said. Butler pledged to do our very best to recover those 6 missing people. But the conditions are difficult. If we look at how challenging it is at a simple motor vehicle crash to extract an individual, I'm sure we can all imagine how much harder it is to do it in inclement weather, when it's cold, under the water, with very limited to no visibility, he said. "There's a tremendous amount of debris in the water, which can include sharp metal and other hazards, and that could take time," Butler said. "A long road in front of us." Built in 1977 and referred to locally as the Key Bridge, the structure was later named after the author of the American National Anthem. The bridge is more than 8,500 feet long, or 1.6 miles. Its main section spans 1,200 feet, and it was one of the longest continuous truss bridges in the world upon its completion, according to the National Steel Bridge Alliance. About 31,000 vehicles a day use the bridge, which equals 11.3 million vehicles per year, according to the Maryland Transportation Authority. The river and the Port of Baltimore are both key to the shipping industry on the East Coast, generating more than $3.3 billion a year and directly employing more than 15,000 people. Asked what people in Baltimore can expect going forward, the state's transportation secretary said it is too early to tell. "Obviously, we reached out to a number of engineering companies, so obviously we have a long road in front of us," Wiedfeld said.